My guest is Rich Torrenzano, Chairman and Chief Executive of the Torrenzano Group, a specialty crisis management. Also the author of the new book, Online Assassination.
Digital Assassination.
How to protect your brand
and business.
And business online.
My co-author is Mark Davis.
Well, it seems as though maybe Sony ought to end up being a chapter in your book because their reputation is getting hammered.
It is, and it's not getting hammered because they were attacked so much as because of the way they handled it. They're a victim here to some extent, but they're late to the game. If you look at the world today, and we're used to, as we grew up, we were in a 24-hour world. But 24 hours today is 3 digital days. A digital day is 8 hours as the sun goes around. And the internet, we were talking earlier between the break, in the internet just these past couple of days with Osama bin Laden, the internet had the story before the television anchors had the story. So the speed and magnitude by which news is moving is enormous today, and most corporations do not have the apparatus to deal with that.
Well, Sony says that they first learned of the breach to the PlayStation Network on April the 19th. They shut it down on April the 20th, but is there any public face of Sony speaking to their potentially 77 million customers who may have lost some personal data?
There doesn't appear to be, and there's a couple of issues here. One, they should have been out quickly with some sort of statement about what was going on to tell customers what was happening. Even if they add to it as they go along, I think the timeliness of information is important. Secondly, as discussed in a lot of regulatory circles today, Toyota, if you remember, when it was called before Congress, first refused. And then within 24 hours, someone had advised them to be wise and then come to appear before Congress. I think Sony has now refused, and I think in the coming days you're going to see that they're going to have to be able to appear before our elected officials, whether they be state or federal or local, and I think they have to do some explaining about how they handled the situation and what they think happened.
What do you think is going on internally at Sony? You have experience, for example, in the pharmaceutical industry. You went through an experience having to do with a recall, and you've described, at least to me in the past, that not everybody in the company was on the same page, at least at the very beginning.
No, and they're not, because people want to try to either wait till they have more information and put out a complete statement, or put out as little as possible. There's a give and take that goes on in every company and every culture, regardless of the industry. I think what has to happen is there's 2 issues now on the table for them from a public posture point of view. The first issue is the lateness to the table of information, and the second issue now is the rebuffing of regulatory authorities. So they have done severe damage to their reputation. It could be repaired, but they have a long way to go. The other issue is what happened, how did it happen, what did they know, when did they know it, and how did they put information out? All these questions need to be asked and answered in the coming days.
Sony says that they're still not sure whether credit card information that may have been entered in the PlayStation Network has been compromised and stolen.
That's very probable. And if you look at these kinds of various attacks, Google in Korea just the other day, and a whole series of other attacks these past couple of months, they may never know. There are these people who do these hacker attacks are very sophisticated, very bright, and I know that all these corporations spend huge amounts of money to try to protect their data. But I think if you had to make a prediction today, over the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see more and more of this, whether it be the WikiLeaks kind of attacks that we've seen in the last couple of months, right, or the Sony kind of attacks, or some of the attacks that we've seen on smaller banks around the country in the last couple of months with banking information.
From the experience that you have, do corporations spend the time and spend the money preemptively, or do they wait until something like this happens?
Everyone's very busy, and until something is in front of your nose, most corporations don't have a plan. Some corporations in certain industries, like chemicals or utilities, are required by law to have a plan. But most corporations...
Right, the government says, look, you've got to protect yourself.
You have to have a very broad plan involving all kinds of local and constituencies, employees, and so forth. Most corporations have not had the drills and the plan on the shelf that they should have. And they really need to ask themselves, what are the 2 or 3 things that could really happen to us? And how do we address them if they do happen?
Well, isn't that the topic of the book, digital assassination?
It is.
Right? Because, I mean, this is really what companies have to face now in the new world of the internet.
It is the digital world that has speed and magnitude like nothing we've seen before.
All right. I want to thank you very much, Rick Torrenzano of the Torrenzano Group and the author of the new book,
with my co-author,
Digital Assassination,
Mark Davis.
Protecting Your Brand and Your Reputation in the Digital World. Thank you very much.